Welcome to Life Stories, where sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones quietly destroying you. Imagine waking up one morning to find your entire future, your savings, your dreams, your identity, vanished, not by a stranger, but by your own family. This is a story about betrayal that wears a smile, about silence that spans generations, and about one woman who finally said, enough. If you've ever felt like the responsible one, the fixer, the person everyone leans on until there's nothing left of you, this story might hit closer than you expect. Because when loyalty becomes a trap and love turns into leverage, what does it take to finally break free? Let's go back to where it all began. The sports car in the driveway shimmered like blood beneath the Georgia sunset, an absurd, almost mocking shade of red. Ava stood frozen at the curb, the keys to her sensible Civic still in hand, her fingers clutching the steering wheel so hard her knuckles had turned pale. Across the driveway, Lexi twirled barefoot on the concrete like a child at a carnival, champagne in hand, her laugh rising in bright, careless spirals into the humid air. "Isn't she gorgeous?" she squealed, running manicured fingers along the hood. The salesman practically gave it away. Ava didn't respond. Her phone buzzed in her purse again, likely another overdraft alert. She'd been ignoring them for the past hour, hoping it was some bank glitch. But as she watched her younger sister twirl in front of that six-figure purchase, reality settled like a lead weight in her chest. Lexi had always been the spontaneous one, the beautiful one, the one their parents protected with a kind of fierce, delusional loyalty. Ava had learned early on how to disappear behind responsibility, behind usefulness. She stepped out of the car, still wearing her rumpled work blouse, sweat collecting beneath her collar after a 12-hour shift at Westbrook Finance. Her voice, when it finally emerged, came out flatter than she intended. "Lexi," she said, "where did you get the money for this?" Lexi didn't even flinch. "Don't start with the lecture," she said, tossing her platinum blonde curls over her shoulder, a move that looked eerily identical to their mother's. "Mom and Dad helped me figure it out. Right, guys?" Their parents stood on the porch, flutes of champagne in hand, faces glowing as if they were celebrating a graduation. "We just accessed that family emergency fund, honey," her mother chimed in, stepping forward. Lexi needed reliable transportation. "She's got interviews coming up." Ava's breath hitched. "That wasn't a family fund. That was my house down payment." Her father cleared his throat. "Well, it was under your name, but we figured—" "You figured," Ava said, her voice sharpening. She pulled out her phone, her thumb trembling as she opened the banking app. The screen glared back at her with a balance she already knew would be there. $127.43, $50,000. Gone. Just like that. "Don't be so dramatic," Lexi said, rolling her eyes. "You're great with money. You'll save it again in no time. It's literally what you do." Ava let the silence stretch. It was the same script she'd heard her whole life. Be the good one, the dependable one, the one who skipped her dream college so Lexi could get braces, the one who filled in as a third parent while their mother rested and their father drifted between jobs and hobbies. "I am good with money," Ava said softly, "which is why I'm shutting everything down." Her mother blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've been covering Dad's credit cards since his early retirement. I've been backing your emergency line of credit, and now I'm revoking it all." She tapped a number into her phone and pressed it to her ear. "No, Ava, don't." Her mother rushed forward. "Hello," Ava said calmly. "This is Ava Sinclair. I need to close account number 847392 immediately. Yes, I understand this will freeze all linked accounts. That's exactly what I want." Lexi's face twisted. "You're just jealous," she spat. "Because Mom and Dad love me more. Because I have a life." Ava didn't reply. She simply walked back to her car, the evening light casting long shadows across the driveway. Before she shut the door, she looked back once, just once. "You know what's interesting about karma, Lexi?" she said, her voice low. "Sometimes it doesn't wait." And with that, she drove away. 2 blocks later, Ava pulled over, heart pounding. Her phone was already vibrating again, Texts from mom, voicemails from dad, Lexi's furious stream of emojis and voice notes. But she didn't answer any of them. Instead, she called Mason. He picked up on the first ring. "Tell me you're not calling to bail them out again." "No," she whispered. "I just did something irreversible." "Finally," he said. "Come over. Bring your laptop and maybe a bottle of whiskey." By the time she arrived at Mason's apartment, her hands had stopped shaking, but her soul hadn't. Together, they pored over her financial records on a glowing screen, tracing transactions she never remembered authorizing. "That joint account from college?" Mason said, squinting. "The one you forgot existed? What about it?" "They've been draining it, slowly, for years." As the night wore on, the scope of the betrayal widened like a spider web. Lexi's car loan, co-signed in Ava's name. Credit lines opened under her social security number. Private tuition Ava had unknowingly paid. Fake job references. A history of forgery, abuse, and silence. Silence Ava had maintained because she thought that's what love required. Her phone buzzed again. A new message from Lexi. "If anything happens to Dad, it's your fault. You'll regret this." Ava stared at the screen for a long time. Then, without flinching, she turned to Mason. "Tomorrow," she said, "I'm filing police reports. I'm calling every bank they defrauded using my name." Mason didn't smile. He simply nodded. "It's about time." And just like that, Ava made the choice no one in her family expected. She chose the truth. Not loyalty, not guilt, not silence. The truth. What would you do if your own family stole your future, piece by piece, smile by smile, while calling it love? Can you ever truly break free from a lifetime of emotional debt, or does it haunt you like interest you didn't agree to pay? Because what Ava uncovers next won't just shatter her trust, it'll rewrite everything she thought she knew about being a daughter. The sun hadn't yet risen when Ava found herself standing outside the precinct, manila folder pressed tight against her chest. Mason had offered to come. Even Riley, her no-nonsense realtor friend, had threatened to drive her there herself. But Ava needed to do this alone. Inside, the fluorescent lights made everything look harsher, like a stage where she had to perform a version of herself that didn't tremble. A young officer took her statement, but it wasn't until Detective Hall entered the room that the weight of what she was doing truly settled. He was older, calm, the kind of man who looked like he'd seen too many families unravel from the inside. "Miss Sinclair," he said, sliding into the chair across from her. "You're saying your own parents committed financial fraud using your identity?" "Yes," Ava replied, voice steady, though her throat burned. Detective Hall flipped through the folder. Bank statements, forged documents, screenshots of her sister's GoFundMe, where Lexi painted herself as the family victim. "And you didn't know about this until recently?" Ava hesitated. That was the part that haunted her most. "I think part of me did," she admitted. "I just didn't want to believe it." He nodded, almost gently. "Most people don't. Family abuse doesn't always leave bruises." When she left the station, the sun had risen. It should have felt like a fresh start. Instead, it felt like grief. Back at her apartment, Riley was pacing by the window. "They're outside again," she said. "Your mom's in the car crying. Lexi's buzzing every damn unit in the building." Ava didn't answer. She walked into the kitchen, poured herself black coffee, and stared at the wall. The morning silence was suffocating. "You okay?" Riley finally asked. "I should be," Ava said. "I mean, I did the right thing, didn't I?" Riley stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Right doesn't always feel good. That's what makes it hard." Ava nodded. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from her Aunt Marlene. "How could you do this to your own mother?" There it was again. The guilt, sent down the generational assembly line like a family recipe. Ava turned her phone off. The real twist came 2 days later. Garrett, her boss at Westbrook Finance, called her into his office. He looked troubled, holding a thick envelope. "Your sister applied for a job here," he said. Ava blinked. "What?" "She listed you as a reference," Garrett continued. "Claims she has a finance degree and 3 years' experience, that you could vouch for her." She dropped out after 1 semester," Ava said, stunned. Garrett slid the documents across the desk. "That's not all. She's been applying to firms across the city, using your name, your credentials, your reputation. A chill broke down Ava's spine. Garrett leaned forward. I know this is family, but this is fraud, and it impacts our firm's liability. I've already notified compliance. Ava left the building that day feeling unmoored. Her sister hadn't just stolen money, she was actively trying to become her, to replace her. At home, Mason was already at her dining table, laptop open. He looked up when she walked in. I found something. Let me guess, she said flatly. They've been siphoning money through another account. Worse, Mason replied. They used your name to co-sign the condo refinance. Last week. Ava froze. What condo? Their condo. She sank into the chair. They forged another signature? Yeah, he said gently. And the bank has your name on record. They could come after you if they default. It was too much, too layered, too twisted. Her whole life had been a performance, her playing the role of responsible daughter while her family rewrote her behind the curtain. And the part that hurt most? Not the money, not the lies. It was the love. Because somewhere deep down, a child still hoped they'd say, I'm sorry, that they'd say, you deserved better. But they hadn't. They weaponized her loyalty, then blamed her for the war. And now they would answer for it. Have you ever had to choose between protecting yourself and protecting someone you love, even when they've betrayed you? Because as Ava begins to build a case not just for justice, but for survival, she's about to discover that the real danger isn't what her family has done, it's what they're still willing to do. Continue with Ava in Part 3, where a single courtroom hearing will decide whether blood is thicker than truth. The courtroom felt colder than Ava had imagined, sterile, clinical, as if the walls themselves had decided not to feel anything. She sat in the front row, her hands gripping a printed copy of her victim impact statement. Her fingers had creased the edges from hours of rereading. She could hear the soft hum of the fluorescent lights above and the occasional scrape of a shoe against the polished floor. Behind her, rows of strangers whispered, but Ava tuned them out. Her eyes stayed locked on the two people seated at the defendant's table. Her parents looked smaller somehow. Her father's once confident posture had collapsed into something timid and hunched. Her mother, draped in the same beige shawl she always wore on Sundays, avoided eye contact. Lexi sat in the gallery behind them, arms crossed, jaw tight. The fire in her eyes had dimmed, replaced by something else. Not guilt, not sorrow, panic. The judge entered, and the room rose. Ava's heartbeat followed. State of Georgia versus Philip and Marion Sinclair. The formalities blurred in her ears until the moment came. Miss Sinclair, you may approach the stand to read your statement. She stood. The pages shook slightly in her grip, but her voice, when she spoke, was steady. Steadier than it had any right to be. I've tried to calculate the damage, she began. Not just the financial cost, the loans, the identity theft, the fraudulent signatures, but the emotional cost. The cost of growing up in a house where love meant silence, where loyalty was demanded, not earned, where I was told I was strong, responsible, the one they could count on, until the day I stopped being useful. Her mother sniffled. Her father shifted in his seat. Ava didn't stop. I wasn't just robbed of money. I was robbed of trust, of safety, of the belief that family would protect me, not profit from me. You didn't just steal my savings. You stole years of my life. And still I wanted to believe there was something salvageable, that beneath the manipulation there was love. But love doesn't forge signatures. Love doesn't treat its daughter like a safety net. She folded the pages. Her voice softened. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm asking for release. I want my life back. When she returned to her seat, she didn't look at her parents. Not once. The judge adjusted his glasses. Before I pass sentence, the defendants have chosen to change their plea. A ripple went through the courtroom. We plead guilty, her father said, voice hoarse. Lexi stood. What? No, you said we were going to fight this. Sit down, Miss Sinclair, the judge said sharply. No, she did this. She turned us into monsters in public. Enough, her mother whispered. No, you let her destroy us. A bailiff stepped forward. Lexi tried to shrug him off, but even her fury had lost its strength. When the judge announced the sentence, 5 years in state prison with restitution, Ava didn't flinch. It was done. Outside the courthouse, the sky was soft and gray. Mason waited with coffee. Riley stood beside him, arms crossed, protective as ever. Over? Mason asked. Ava nodded. For now. Did it feel like justice? Riley asked. Ava thought for a long time. It felt like truth, and that's more than I ever had growing up. That night, she walked through the empty rooms of her new house, the one she'd bought without cosigners, without stolen money, without permission. The air still smelled like fresh paint and freedom. In the kitchen, she unpacked the last box. Inside was a photo frame. Ava at age 10, holding a handmade birthday card Lexi had drawn. Their parents smiled behind them. She stared at it for a while, then quietly placed it face down in a drawer. 2 weeks passed. A letter arrived in a plain envelope addressed in her mother's handwriting. We're sorry. That's all it said. No details, no responsibility, no admission. Just 2 words that weighed more than all the documents Detective Hall had collected. She didn't respond, but she kept the letter. One rainy Sunday, her doorbell rang. When she opened it, Lexi stood there, drenched and shivering. What do you want? Ava asked quietly. Lexi didn't cry. Her voice was even. I just wanted to know if you could forgive me. Ava studied her sister. The same eyes, the same cheekbones, the same shadow of entitlement clinging to her, though dimmer now. No, Ava said gently. Not yet. Lexi nodded. I figured. I just needed to try. She turned and walked back into the rain. Ava closed the door and leaned against it. She didn't cry. Not this time. She made tea. She sat by the window. She watched the rain. And for the first time in her life, she felt still. No longer someone's backup plan. No longer the family vault. No longer the girl who had to hold everything together with silence and savings. She was Ava Sinclair. Whole. Free. And beginning again. What stayed with you the most from Ava's journey? And have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved in order to find yourself? Comment 100 if this story moved you. Where are you watching from? Share this video with a friend who needs to hear this story. Thank you for watching Life Stories.